You know what? This is a really good question, and I'm not going to let anybody make me feel bad about it. So we got the Black Eric Foreman back in the building again, and I'm here to answer a question that was DM'd to me on Twitter. And someone was pretty much giving me their concerns about Brockhampton and saying like, oh man, you know, I like Brockhampton. I want to know if you really like him too, but are you like me where you think that Brockhampton is releasing a little bit too much music? And generally what I would say in this scenario is no and yes, you know, be like a double answer. Most people think that you're releasing too much music when the previous work that you've done pretty much exceeds most of what's come out that same year. Like Brockhampton, as far as projects are concerned, has been at the top as far as, you know, new releases and really enjoyable music. So when someone says or asks, are they releasing too much music? What they really mean is, I don't want them to release too much good music because I don't want them to burn out. But to answer this question, in my opinion, I don't really think that Brockhampton is releasing too much music. I think their music, from what I've heard so far, is going to end up revolving around Roberto as a theme. So they've kept most of the music kind of surface level when it comes to the group themselves. And what I mean by that is they've taken a very surface level approach in their members, right? So they don't tackle their members' individuality in individual songs that frequently. So most of the time we end up listening to Saturation 1 and Saturation 2 and not getting that deep of a connection to each member. Because there are still a lot of members that a lot of people don't know about in Brockhampton, like myself included. Like, my favorite member of Brockhampton is Amir, even though I can agree that Kevin Abstract, in my opinion, has the best flow and generally knows how to sway the direction of the song with the tone of his voice. Amir still is my favorite, not only because of his subject matter, but because he's consistent. But putting that aside, there are still many members of the group that I don't have as deep of a connection to, that I don't know as much about, that, you know, I've yet to really hear from in songs consistently. So when people tell me or they ask, you know, is Brockhampton, you know, gonna fall off at some point, or are they gonna, you know, keep making music at the same level that they've been making it? I don't really see that as too big of a worry. Like I said, the group's individuality hasn't been placed at the forefront of these projects. We get some tracks thrown out here and there, like even on the most recent album, Saturation 2, where Amir pretty much gets his own interlude, but it was only like a minute and a half, and although Amir talks heavily about being in the street, we don't have all the information, I'm sure. And with there being this many members of Brockhampton, I don't really want to hear individual projects from each and every member to get a feel for who they are. But if I want to get a deeper connection or a deeper feel for every member, I want to know everything about them. Using Brockhampton as a way to expose their own individuality wouldn't be a bad thing to do. For instance, on Injury Reserve's most recent EP that came out over the weekend, we had Groggs and we had Richie talk about their disgust for the lack of rapping in the rap game, or for what people think is important. Richie adamantly talks about wanting people to just rap, you know, don't talk about this other stuff that really doesn't matter, like ghostwriters, like, oh, I like the fact that you don't rap about this and that like these other rappers do. Like, just rap. I don't want to hear all this chit chat about who and so. We also got Grog's perspective on pretty much the same thing, especially with this part on the hook where he says, you know, you still want to know about the birds and the bees, and I'm on my third degree, meaning the stuff that you think is important versus what I think is important are on two totally different levels, but we get both of their perspectives on that subject. And with Brockhampton, they've had a couple of thematic songs like Star, where each person that's rapping kind of gives their definition of what, you know, a star is, gives the list of their own favorite stars in the song. There's a lot of things that Brockhampton, I feel, can do to remain relevant even after this third project that they've got coming out. I understand the fans' perspective of Brockhampton and worrying about, you know, oh, if they're going to keep releasing such great music, at some point they're going to have a hiatus or a break. What are they going to come back with? Obviously not going to be a fourth installment of Saturation. I would hope not. So that being the concern for many of the people who enjoy them, I can again understand why this question comes up. The biggest thing about Brockhampton that really just keeps them pushing forward and, you know, keeps them going is the fact that they've been recently popularized. I'm not saying that they recently had buzz around their name or that they've recently started making good music, but they've recently become popularized. And majority of the people who didn't know about them before coming into their music now, and they want to know more about each member of the group specifically. Now, Brockhampton can use the name Brockhampton to solidify themselves in the rap game before making it so that they expose their individualities to the public, but in my opinion, that's exactly what they're doing. They're saturating the market and the rap game with their sound, and they're doing a great job of dominating. This is going to be their third project that comes out, and I believe it's coming out October 11th. if this is their third project and it's coming out and it's good and it's great and it gets just as much acclaim or just as much likability as the first Saturation and the second, they'll have pretty much dominated when it comes to consistency as far as hip-hop goes. Now, I'll agree that the first album didn't really maintain that feel of hip-hop like I would have liked for it to. There were a couple broken ideas in the first Saturation in some of the songs, in my opinion, but for the most part, as an overall, project, it was still pretty good, and I still find myself going back to it a lot. With Saturation 2, it maintained more of the hip-hop feel to it. There were more hip-hop-esque beats. There was more aggression. There was more lyricism. There was more focus on their aggression as a group and letting people know that we're here to stay. Like, in case you thought it was sweet and it was just a fluke for the first time, we got a second one for you that you're really going to enjoy for all the hip-hop heads that didn't like the first one. And I'm personally not calling myself a hip-hop head. I'm just saying, I'm a guy who enjoys the vibe or the feeling I get when I listen to hip-hop music more. So when I listen to a project that's covering that feeling more, I'm probably going to like it more. So with this third installment, I'm kind of wondering what it is that they're going to be able to do next. But whatever it is, I feel like they've had enough consistency with dropping 2 great projects this year already. I don't really have a reason to doubt them, dropping a third really enjoyable project. But to kind of help my point, even these 3 projects that have come out this year are supposed to be focused thematically more so around Roberto. I mean, Kevin Abstract tweets that you need to pay attention to him when listening to all 3 of these projects. So there's something, like I said, that involves him specifically. I don't know if they're trying to just represent him as the outsider. That's kind of what, in my opinion, he was. He was kind of like the outsider in Saturation 1. I don't know if that's what they're trying to represent him as. You got to decipher the lyrics. You got to decipher what he was saying. He was speaking foreign language. I believe he was speaking Spanish, maybe French in those albums. So if we're to pay attention to him, now we know that thematically, Brockhampton isn't necessarily just pushing their own ideas forward. They have something thematic that they wanted to get out there. They had something thematic that they wanted to expose to the public that isn't necessarily about them. Like I said, we get bits and pieces of each member every now and again, but never each member consistently, and never covering every single person that's involved in the group. Now, I know there are a couple of members that stick strictly to production, and there are a couple of members that actually make features on the project, but there goes their longevity right there, in my opinion. That's what it is that they have left. They can easily take their members' ideologies and take subjects even and give each person's perspective on that specific subject. They can have dialogue with each other through songs on the entire project in the future. Like if they wanted to release a project in the future called Discrimination, right? Because that's essentially what Brockhampton is a group of people who I feel like, based off what they rap about, has been discriminated against in the past, whether it be from their race or sexual orientation, just the way they look, the way they act, the way they behave, stuff that they do. I don't know, but we can see that there's been some outcast development that's going on over there. And I'm not talking about the group outcast. I'm talking about they, to some degree, have been outcast. I mean, the group was based and formed through hip-hop form, so it's not unbelievable for this to be a possibility in the future. And as I've said before, if you're, fearful of artists not really having longevity in the market or in the industry, I think you should really pay attention to how they come out. A lot of people, when they come out with these projects, they give you everything in the very beginning. So with the next project, you really have nothing left to get unless they make it a conceptual album, or unless they make it a turn-up album, or unless they make it a thematic album. Like, that's pretty much all you're gonna get. Take Kendrick Lamar. He released Get Kid, Mad City, pretty much the blueprint of his life. Then he released To Pimp a Butterfly, which in my opinion was a concept album. Then he releases Damn, in my opinion, which is a really thematic album, which the theme of that pretty much is fear, confusion, depression, and all those feelings mixed up into one. So Brockhampton, in my opinion, has already covered that space. They've already done what they needed to do when it comes to turning up. Third project, when it comes out, I'm assuming will maintain the similar vibes that Saturation 1 and 2 did. Like I said, possibly being better, we don't know. It could be the worst one, it could be the best one, we don't know, but I do know in some way it'll be different from 1 and 2. You know what? I should retract on that. I think this will probably be their thematic trilogy, right? And the next project they do may be a concept project based specifically on their ideologies and what it is they have to offer mentally. But I would feel that way since Brockhampton has kept a lot of their members very hidden and been kind of secretive with everybody that's involved in the group to some degree. I wouldn't say it's a far-fetched for people to believe that Brockhampton is going to come out with something that involves every single member, or where you learn more specifically about each member. So I don't think that they're releasing too much music because, in my opinion, even the point of this third installment of this trilogy has yet to be found out. Once we learn what this one is about, then you can determine whether or not you believe they're releasing too much music. But this all covers a theme and it's all going towards one point. I couldn't really say they're releasing too much music or that they're oversaturating us because we don't know why they're making this music, in my opinion. They haven't had a project that was dedicated to an idea specifically, so I don't really think it's too far of a fetch to say that they aren't releasing too much music, because there's so much about them that we still don't know, the way they feel about this, about that. We don't even know every single member, what their experience has been in the rap game or what they've been through. So I think it's still safe to say that they're covering a good space in rap while still not giving us everything about them, and they still have an opportunity to expose their individuality in the rap game. So in my opinion, I think this is a needless worry, but I do understand it. Other than that, review obviously will be coming to Brockhampton's third saturation. But leave in the comment section below, what do you think they could put on this project? How much more energy can you put into this installment to make it comparable or better than 1 and 2? Again, I don't think they've been releasing too much music, but I gotta know how they're gonna top 1 and 2. It's been Shawn C, and I'll see you next time. Peace. I can't get up because I'm not wearing pants, so I just gotta sit here and let the camera die. I mean, it's not gonna die, but I gotta let it cut off. I can let the timer run out. That can happen. So the video is just gonna end abruptly. I don't know how it's gonna end, but it's just gonna go out of nowhere. I'm gonna be talking probably, and then it's gonna